So here the question comes up, can creativity be taught? Kind of an interesting question, huh? Can it be taught? That's like, our leaders born, are our leaders made? Can you be taught how to be creative? Well, research into the operations of the human brain show that each hemisphere of the brain processes information differently, and that one side of the brain tends to be dominant over the other. The human brain develops asymmetrically, meaning that each hemisphere tends to specialize in certain functions. The left brain is guided by linear vertical thinking, from essentially going from one logical conclusion to the next, whereas the right brain relies on kaleidoscopic lateral thinking. For example, considering a problem from all sides and then jumping into it at different points. The left brain handles language, logic, and symbols. The right brain takes care of the body's emotional, intuitive, and spatial functions. The left brain processes information sequentially or step by step, but the right brain processes it intuitively, all at once, relying heavily on images. So, those who have learned to develop their right brain thinking always ask, is there a better way? Challenge custom, routine, and tradition. These are the right brain people. They'll challenge anything. They don't want to change things sometimes for the sake of it, but they're always thinking, how do I make it better? How do I improve it? The right brain thinker is reflective. They are prolific thinkers. They play mental games. They realize that there is more than one right answer and basically sees mistakes as just pit stops. They see problems kind of like springboards, and they understand that failure is part of the creative process. And finally, they could see beyond daily routine. So, there are some barriers to creativity as well. The number of potential barriers to creativity is virtually limitless: time pressures, unsupportive management, pessimistic coworkers, overly rigid company policies, and countless others. Perhaps the most difficult hurdles to overcome, however, are those that individuals impose on themselves. So it is all broken down basically into 10 mental locks for creative thinkers. Searching for the right answer is the first one. Most problems are ambiguous and there are multiple answers. They're focusing on trying to be logical. The initial phrases of the creative process requires one to be imaginative, focusing on logical limits creativity. They blindly follow the rules. Creativity sometimes depends upon us breaking the rules, constantly being practical. One should suspend practicality when developing ideas. They view laughter and play as frivolous. A playful attitude, they think, is fundamental to creative thinking. Their other block is becoming overly specialized. Being narrowly focused, myopic thinking can limit you to the status quo. Now, I think these are all things that creative thinkers are thinking. Avoiding ambiguity, that's what the logical thinker thinks. They're saying the creative thinker sometimes ambiguity is just what is needed to find a creative solution. And fearing looking foolish. The logical thinker says, I don't want to look foolish. The creative thinker says, avoid conformity and question the accepted way of doing things. Fearing mistakes and failure. Creative thinker says failure is not an end for creative entrepreneurs, but a chance to learn how to succeed. And finally, the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The Pygmalion effect, believing that I am not creative. The creative thinker says this is simply an excuse for inaction. So when you look at this whole thing, right brain, left brain thinking, do we need both of them at different times or both of them together? How do we do that? Do you have an individual that is right down the line in how they create ideas, become innovative, but also know that they don't have limitless resources? They don't have limitless resources to do what they need and want to do. So we want to create organizational creativity, but at the same time, we want to include creativity as a core company value and make it part of the organizational culture. But we have to be careful how we do this because we don't have limitless resources. So companies that are learning organizations, they are innovative companies and they're proactive and their search for new ideas can be a powerful weapon against those companies that are essentially resistant to change. So, even if you're a new company or a small company, you could certainly, as a leader, shake up entire industries because you're going somewhere that you believe strongly about and no one has gone before. So think about that. Think of some of the things we talked about today.